President Buhari apologizes to Nigerians, says sufficient fuel supply being delivered to states. The Central Bank of Nigeria to introduce bank cash hubs for banks' customers. And Russia and Canada inflation rise in February 2022, plus all steady below $100, although Energy Information Association predicts oil prices will remain above $100 for this month. This is a Business Express on the network service of Nigeria. My name is Leah Baba today. Of course, some situations out there affecting everyone, but certainly we're going to get over them in no time. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed sincere regrets for the inconveniences caused to citizens of the country following a prolonged shortage of petroleum products, something that the administration has successfully averted in its 7 years in office. The president, in a statement, said the administration knows that the fuel shortage has placed a strain on Nigerian citizens and businesses, but government is working around the clock together with the major oil and independent petroleum marketers to address the issue. He directed the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, the Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, the NNPC, and the entire security apparatus of the nation to take strong action against people that are not behaving properly at the depots and among owners of petrol stations. On the issue of electricity blackouts being experienced across the nation, the president explained that a dip in hydroelectric generation due to seasonal pressure has coincided with technical and supply problems at thermal stations. And still with the fuel situation, which seemed to be improving, it has taken a worrisome turn as motorists are attributing this to the unruly behavior of drivers trying to cut corners and jump the queues. Lydia Sampson monitored some petrol stations. Her report.
The situation has become a bad dream that refuses to end. The fuel situation is still biting hard, and motorists say just when they were about to heave a sigh of relief, the situation is taking a dimension they just can't explain.
They no open gate for us. We there since 8 o'clock. They no open now from front. The motor they enter. We don't know what we do. We don't know what we do them. They are bring the motor enter from front for big men people. See the car. See all the car where they say jeep. Now they enter.
They were in the midst of River Niger, and we are still starving to drink water. So that is what it is.
I came here since 6 o'clock, and up to now, I've not got my fuel. All those tasks, I don't know how they get their fuel through the gallon, and then sold gallon, 4,000, 5,000. I don't know where they get those fuel.
They are selling, yes. They are selling. It's moving smoothly.
Visiting many petrol stations now is one of uncertainty. However, motorists say they are willing to wait for as long as it takes.
They are not selling, and we'll be here since morning. As we are watching, one tanker came and dropped fuel, not quite long.
The last product we discharged as fuel, it was yesterday, which we stayed throughout the night till this morning. So finished. The one we discharged today is diesel.
Some of the main questions the motorists are asking are, what is responsible for this recurring situation? Is it a pricing issue? All the motorists say they want is a final solution that will restore normalcy. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson.
Oil prices below $100 on Thursday after the International Energy Agency IEA said markets could lose 3 million barrels per day of Russian crude and refined products from April. The International Energy Association says the supply would be far greater than an expected 1 million barrels per day drop in demand triggered by high fuel prices. Benchmark Brent crude futures gained $1.8 or $1.9 to $99.86 this morning after falling for 3 consecutive trading sessions. Now we move to the National Assembly, where in January 2020, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in a bid to stop indiscriminate deductions for transactions, issued guidelines on charges. Despite these provisions, it is alleged that most banks in Nigeria engage in excess charges. Well, the House of Representatives has resolved to look into the allegation.
Of bank charges with different descriptions. The deductions are already covered by the CBN-approved monthly account maintenance fee.
This retinue of charges, current account maintenance fee, electronic transfer fund, card maintenance, credit card charges, debit card charges, issuance of statement account, merchant service loans, that's even when people are being paid salary.
Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in collaboration with the Bankers Committee, has introduced cash collection centers called Bank Neutral Cash Hubs. This is to enable it to reduce costs and improve operational efficiency in the country's cash management value chain. BNC8 collecting centers that are cash collecting centers that are set up by registered processing firms or deposit money banks in response to business needs. They will be in place where there are a lot of commercial operations and monetary transactions. Customers will be able to make cash deposits and receive value at the hubs regardless of which bank their account is held. Now we remain with that sector. The Nigeria Startup Bill is our focus today. It has reached the National Assembly and it has been received by the Nigerian Senate. The bill, which was presented to the National Assembly by President Muhammadu Buhari a week ago, says that the Startup Bill seeks to position the country's startup ecosystem and to establish a national council for digital innovation and entrepreneurship. What exactly is the bill all about and how important is it? Well, Nia Kinshiju, an economic analyst, he's here with me to throw more light on the bill. Hello, Mr. Nia, and you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure always.
Yes. The startup bill, it is being viewed as one that will help startups. Can you help us make a sense of it? What are the prospects? What exactly is this bill about?
Well, I think it's this is just about the right time for this kind of bill because what it's going to do is actually to engraft the innovation ecosystem, the digital ecosystem into the mainstream of the macroeconomics. What I'm trying to say is that already we are talking of digital economy. The digital economy is usually driven by private sectors, private individuals, and that's why we talk about startups. Startups is about individuals with creative ideas, initiating a business procedure by using the ideas to create products and services. And in doing that, they need funding. And funding globally will usually come through venture capital, angels, seed funding, and all that. Now we've had that scenario building up in Nigeria over time, starting with what you call the Yaba Hub, Tech Hub. From Yaba Tech Hub, we have had more than 750 startups in Nigeria. Okay. Now it shows the kind of population of technology agents we have, technology-managed agents we have. But unfortunately, there has been a disconnect between the government and this set of people. And for anybody, for any country to break into mainstream technology and of course make profit out of it, there's a need for collaboration between government and this sector or this segment of the people. So the bill is about aligning government policies, government regulation, and of course government support with private sector activities and enthusiasm.
So what sector of the economy do you think this bill is going to be focusing on?
Technology is an interdiscipline how do I call it, sector, you know, it cuts across all sectors of the economy, education, finance, agriculture, and all that. There's always technology being applied, and that's why we're even talking about disruptive technology now. In the financial sector, you have all manners of products and services coming on, upstaging the normal conventional banking activities. In the agricultural sector, you also have technology being applied now, increasing efficiency and all that in that sector. So it's a cross sector, you know. It's a multidisciplinary approach, you know, to engaging processes. And to that extent, it would mean that technology might have actually emerged as perhaps the most important, you know, elements or tools in terms of development and growth. So now we also have what we call the unicorns, coming from segments, especially in finance. For instance, you have the Hope, you have Flutterwave, and of course you also have the handling. Now we are talking about unicorns because these are companies that started in Nigeria, and their valuation is more than $1 billion. You know, taking mostly 90% mostly from outside the country. Their valuation, the Flutterwave, for instance, is valued higher than most banks, most Tier 1 banks in Nigeria. So it tells you the importance of these technology companies. You know, so Flutterwave and OP are operating in the finance sector. Andale is operating in the outsourcing sector. And you now have multiple companies too operating across different segments of the economy. So what this bill is trying to do, because they are also subject to multi-regulatory agencies, which usually also create confusion. So now the bill is now saying, let all the agencies that are regulating this segment will come together, especially in the council that I just talked about, the Council of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, that has the president, that's the number one person, the number one regulator, you know, in that council, and the Minister of Communication, the Vice President and all that, the Finance Minister and all that. Now, you will be able to now take a look at regulation from a board's perspective. So rather than have multiple regulatory agencies regulating that now very, very important segment of our economy, you have this body that is also not just regulating but also advising, and by so doing enhance the capacity and of course potential flourishing of that segment. Today, if without the kind of support we are talking about with the startup bill, we have about 5, perhaps the most flourishing 5 companies, tech companies in Africa, located in Nigeria. You can imagine what would have, you know, when we have this kind of bill becoming act and being, of course, implemented.
I'm glad that we're talking about regulations, because we've had most of these startups having complaints that they're having to deal with multiple agencies, as you have rightly pointed out, and some of them, with all due respect, clearly don't even move within the ambit of the trend. So it's like the trend has left some people, or some are just trying to be mischievous, if I'll put it that way. One wouldn't say, but you get multiple complaints when you go out and you're speaking with them, and they say, this person comes and charges me for this person comes and charges me for this person says this, and at the end of it all, they're trying to move to other destinations. Yeah, yes, so that is the concern, retaining these startups in the country, making the business environment work for everybody. Exactly. What does it mean for Nigeria? Of course, we've seen the AFCFTA, the payment backbone. It's not even in Nigeria. For instance, we're going to Benin to get the backbone from there.
Yeah, we're going forward. We're going to have our own in Nigeria, because we have people already, young people, that are actually applying themselves to this payment platform already. And what I know is that the younger generation is synonymous with tech development. Yeah. So principally, if we are talking about technology, digital economy, we are actually talking about the younger generation. And there's a cultural difference between the younger generation and, of course, the older generation that are likely or that are most likely populating the regulatory MDAs. So the way they are looking at things will be different. But what comfort I found in this bill is that there had been a lot of consultation with young operators in the field. They had huge input in the bill. So it's actually a reflection of their own inclination. The bill is a reflection of their own inclination. So it's like they said, a down top approach that was adopted. So to a large extent, I think the bill will be passed. The president will be willing to sign it, and since you now have a collective integrated approach, to the regulation of that segment of the economy, I think will be more. The progression will be more impressive going forward.
Okay, so let's move to the financing stage. You mentioned earlier about the investors, the angel investors, the VCs, and all that getting to come into this space. And of course, we've seen a lot of interest over time, but most of them are actually coming from outside. So what will it take to have Nigerian financiers dominate this space?
Well, I don't want to use the word dominate, because technology is actually a global essence, of global essence. It's not when you may have an idea in Nigeria, but it's actually for global application. And that is why for any technology company to flourish, yes, you may have your base in a particular geopolitical location, but you must be able to sell or to connect with what we call global technology companies. So and it's more robust if you have global investors also showing interest in what you are doing locally. Yeah, we have Nigerians investors that may be interested in this, but the most important thing is the government buy-in that we are going to have through the bill, as it were. Governments would make arrangements for support, for funding, for grants, for tax incentives, and fiscal incentives and all that. So which means a tech company would start enjoying tax holiday, for instance. Okay. It also means that a tech company could apply, for loan, could apply for grants, and there will be specific products, either at the level of the CBN, which is normal intervention, or at the level of deposit money banks that are saying if you are a tech company and you are able to do this much, there's liberal access to you for funding. And funding is actually at the heart, of development in the tech segment.
So perhaps we're going to take this conversation further to the deposit money banks and the regulatory sector.
Definitely, because those are the drivers of the economy, as it were.
Yeah, so they can put their money there.
Yeah.
Okay, I must sincerely thank you for coming on the program this morning, Mr. Niyi.
My pleasure, as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you for coming. And so we move straight to surviving COVID-19, sponsored by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
My name is Amina Aminu Deladi Agwe. My husband is late. It's through this business I'm manageable, paying my children's school fees. We eat from there. That's how that was the business I used to do, kunu and buns. I need somebody who will help me to grow up for the business, but I doesn't have. Like the month that if there's something going on in this premises, sometimes I am like 8,000. The last 2 months ago, a week like this, I reached 10,000. But as a normal day like this, maybe possible to 1.5 or 1.7. I was indoor. Nothing like market, nobody. Because nobody is allowed to move to anywhere. So I always stay in my house. So how will you? It is only God. Small thing where I get inside the house. Maybe somebody is feeling as to take kunu, they will come to my door and knock door. I don't know who will introduce me to that level. I didn't know, even though I didn't know, I have children at least, they can put me through. But I was not aware. learned a lesson by it's good to have some other business, other outside, not only inside here. So to establish my business or for people to know me more.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
So, of course, it was also another opportunity to take the message of financial inclusion to the people out there, and that was what we did with Madam Amina, who is a mother of 5 and basically had no idea that there was something called TCF. We move to our next story. With trillions of naira potential contribution to the nation's economy, the federal government is working towards harnessing the gains of e-commerce by preparing the players to take full advantage of the sector. Against this background, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment organized a sensitization forum in Kano, the commercial hub of northern Nigeria. Aminu Umar reports.
Records have shown that e-spending in Nigeria has risen to $13 billion and is expected to grow to about $75 billion by 2025, with prospects of recording more gains. The participants in this sensitization are here to be better informed on how best to be active players in harnessing the potential of this trillion naira sector.
Actually, we have gained a lot of knowledge here on how to transact business between us and other partners elsewhere in the world.
It's really a great opportunity to have this capacity building and sensitization on how to move our business forward.
The tripartite effort of government agencies and ministries, which is in line with federal government economic diversification policy and the policy on digital economy, is working towards making Nigeria a better place for e-commerce to flourish.
You find that e-commerce has been acceptable. You know, it is reliable, it is dependable platform, it is also an implementable kind of structure, platform, so to speak, and also it's something that can be sustainable.
I commend my ministry, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, for organizing this workshop with a view to enlighten the Kano community, so the Kano community will join the International Business Forum in order to bring foreign exchange into our economy.
So we are going to develop regulations to guide the use, the implementation, and everything that has to do with e-commerce. And how do we do that? Stakeholder engagement, involving everybody that is in the space.
The sensitization features paper presentations from resource persons aimed at preparing the participants who will further cascade the knowledge acquired. In Kano, Aminu Umar.
Thank you, Aminu. The NGX on the Nigerian Stock Exchange market closed Wednesday on a positive note amid sell-off and buy interest as the benchmark all-share index appreciated by 0.05%. The all-share index advanced to 47,287.09 basis points as market capitalization inched up to 25.526 trillion naira. 145.8 million shares exchanged hands by investors in 4,113 deals valued at 2.5 billion naira. The financial services sector led the activity chart with UBA, Access and Zenith banks topping in volume and value. It is on that note that the market will be resuming this morning, and outside home, Hong Kong led strong gains in Asian stocks market as stocks market opened in positive territory this Thursday. Buster Abel has a summary of that market.
Global markets are muted in the wake of the Federal Reserve hiking its benchmark interest rate for the first time since 2018 and signaling 6 more hikes this year. Shares in Asia Pacific rose on Thursday trade as the Chinese markets continue to extend gains from a rebound. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index led gains among the region's major markets, surging 5.84%. Shanghai Composite rose 1.40% and the Nikkei also topped 3.46%. U.S. stock futures were generally quiet early Thursday morning as investors digested the latest projections from the Federal Reserve. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average added 15 points or less than 0.1% for the S&P 500, it hovered above the flat line, while Nasdaq futures gained around 0.2%. European stocks are expected to open around the flat line on Thursday as investors react to the U.S. Federal Reserve's first hike rate in years. As at the time of this report, there are no figures yet from African markets. Boss said they able. Business Express.
And this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep coming, keep bringing in your comments, questions, and observations. Also know that all episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Join us again Friday at 3 p.m. for another package. I'm Leah Kating Babatunde. Have a good day.